Hi, I'm Jody, and I'm interviewing my friends because I think they're some of the greatest people in the world.
So today's friend happens to be someone that I also met in around 2020 through book club. Tell everybody your name.
My name is Victoria Denaro.
Weirdly, one of three Victorias that are in our book club.
Yeah.
Which is wild. Because that's not that it's an uncommon name. It's a beautiful name, but you don't hear it very often. And we have three.
Yeah.
And so you are known as Tori.
Yes.
And where do you live?
I live in South Philadelphia.
And what do you do?
I am a legal administrator for some mutual funds.
And what are you an expert at?
This is a tough question, Jody, always with the tough ones.
I know.
I'm an expert at a lot of things, I think. I think I'm an expert at giving back.
I mean, that's a great answer because just from my perspective, you made me sneakers for the Phillies Pride game this year, which was just such this like selfless gesture. You literally rainbow tie-dyed white canvas sneakers so that we could have them for the game. And they're still one of my favorite things ever. Full disclosure, usually I have some structured questions to guide the conversation along. But you and I had been chatting about actually having this conversation for a few weeks. And there were two very compelling things about your life that I thought you should talk about. One was about transitioning locations and, after being away for long periods of time and then coming back to what you know is home. And the second was about some major career changes that you were making in your life.
I grew up in a little town outside of Philadelphia called Doylestown. I guess it's not really little, but and went to high school there, went to college at Philadelphia University, which is now Thomas Jefferson. And then right after college, got a job at Macy's in King of Prussia.
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, met a bunch of lovely people there who I still talk to, who are my dear friends. Then I worked at a bunch of different restaurants, but moved to Boston when my significant other went back to his home country of Honduras. He was going to come back to Boston, and we were going to come back down here and get a place together. Because I was kind of at a crossroads when I was here. My house that I was living in got broken into 3 times, and I couldn't stay there any longer. So it was like, okay, do I find an apartment on my own? What do I do? And so I figured, I'll go to Boston for 6 months, hang out with the family, and then make our way back down. And it just never happened because I ended up getting a full-time job after working in restaurants for forever. And every time I thought about coming back here, I would get promoted or something would happen and it just wouldn't make sense. Right. And then the pandemic hit. And I said to my husband, I was like, what are we going to do? Are we going to move? Are we going to buy a house? Like, what are we doing? Because we were in a tiny 2-bedroom apartment and I was working from home and he was home because he was laid off. And that wasn't going to work for us. So we decided to look at houses down here because I always wanted to come back. That was always the plan. And he's got family here. I've got friends that I've known for practically my whole life. And so we ended up buying a house in Point Breeze and I couldn't be happier. I think that kind of snowballed all of my life changes because I feel like I got comfortable here really quick again.
Did you like living in Boston?
I didn't. This is a touchy subject, but I didn't like living in Boston. No.
Why is it a touchy subject?
Because my family gets really upset about it. And I tried to like it for so long. It's almost like a different world up there, I think. And it was really hard to make friends there. I never lived there when I was a kid. I mean, I was born there and lived there till I was 6, but then we moved around a ton. I lived in 7 different states all through middle school and elementary school. My dad worked for General Motors Acceptance Corporation. So he was the guy that would get car dealers loans to buy their cars to put on their lots.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So they moved him around a lot. He moved up in the company. He was like a big deal, I guess.
When you were living in Doylestown and in high school, did you come to Center City, Philly a lot?
Yeah, we'd take the R5 down to the gallery, which is now the fashion district. And I don't even know how our parents let us do that, to be honest. Like now looking back at it, I'm like, what the heck did you guys just let us take the train in high school and just go by ourselves to the gallery? Like it was wild. I mean, we would like go to concerts at the TLA and like be waiting in line for whatever bands we were seeing, because that's all like general admission and you had to like stand there. We did that a ton too. So I mean, I was always kind of like around in the city.
Okay, so you're in Boston for 7 years, you come back, and this becomes then the catalyst for a series of life changes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about them. What happened?
So I started volunteering at CASA, which is Court Appointed Special Advocates. So I am responsible for a foster child's education. And it's been really enlightening. It's been really definitely interesting. I love going to court.
Said no one ever.
I know, right? But it's just, I guess, you know what? Because I don't do it for a job and it's not like any trial against me. So I'm like, okay, I'll just go to court, sit there and answer questions. It's no big deal. And I think like writing court reports is always interesting to me too. And I knew I needed a career change. I mean, I went to school for fashion design. Right. So life was never supposed to be finance. I was looking into jobs to see like, what can I do court-wise? Like, could I be one of those people that calls people into the courtrooms, like or like a court reporter or something? Like I thought that would be super interesting. And so I was looking at those jobs and a lot of it required paralegal experience. So I said, okay, if this is something I really want to do, like, let's figure out how we do this. And so I enrolled myself in a paralegal studies course at the Community College of Philadelphia. And I just took one class and I said, if I like this, awesome. If I don't, no harm, no foul. And I ended up really liking it. So then last Christmas, the day before Christmas Eve, I decided, maybe stupidly, to quit my job without a plan. I got a message from my boss at the time and she said, hey, do you want me to introduce you to the VP of HR? And I said, sure. So that sounds like a good plan. And so I ended up talking to the VP of HR, found that Ultimus, my company now, was hiring a paralegal. And so I said to her, listen, I'm probably not qualified for this job, but I really want it. She said, okay, you can interview for it. And so I interviewed and razzle-dazzled them and ended up getting this job, which has been such a change and definitely interesting. I mean, it's not really something I want to do long-term, but it's a good step in the right direction. And I think I never would have made any of these like crazy rash decisions had I not been happy in my life in other areas.
Well, I was just going to say, these are big changes and they're so scary. And you were you scared when you were doing these, or were you just, you just knew intuitively it was the right choice?
I think I knew intuitively it was the right choice. But I also had a good support system. I mean, I have a ton of friends who were very supportive through all of this. My husband, who was like, just do what you want, whatever's going to make you happy. Like, you figure it out, girl, and you do you, which I'm so thankful for too. So, I mean, I was lucky in that regard, but I think just being fearless about like getting your life to where you want it to be is key.
So what advice would you give somebody who's faced with a major life decision and they're feeling unsure about whether to jump into it or not?
I think one of the biggest things that I did, and I kind of always do, is do like a pro-con list and kind of think about long-term and think about what my options are. But also I think you need to have a backup plan, right? And like for me, it was just, okay, so I do something that I can do while I don't have an income, and I'll
Mhm.
figure it out.
Do you ever have regrets?
No, because I don't think you can live life that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think, have I done stuff in my life that I kind of cringe at? Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Who hasn't? But I wouldn't change it, because if I changed it, I might not have ended up where I am now.
I love that perspective. And thank God you ended up where you did, because it was into my life, which I'm
Yeah.
very grateful for.